right, guys, we are on part 2 of our Patriotic project, and we are showing you a whole bunch of techniques. Today, we're going to show how to layer it through other stencils. Let's get started. So I'm going to use a T-square to center my stencil. I have my United States stencil, and I am going to set it down my board. I'm going to leave room for something else I'm going to do at the bottom. Kind of want to let you be surprised by each of the steps. But each of the steps of this project is kind of engineered to show you a different technique. So it's all just complete education. You're going to be able to use these techniques for any stencil project that you use. I'm going to use my soapstone marker that's got a gray soapstone, a white soapstone, and a roller ball with no ink so that you can transfer patterns if you want to do it that way. And it has an eraser on the back end. T-square just hugs right up next to the straight of the board, and this is a really good way to get a straight line. And then the soapstone, once I mark this, can erase with eraser or water. Okay, so you can erase it. It actually erases with spit too, but since we share all of the tools around here, we don't want to use that technique. Okay, so we're going to put our United States map onto the project. There is one piece that I did, and there's a video for how to use this product, and we'll link that below. This is stick and re-stick, and this makes the back, you can put it on with a sponge, it makes the back of your stencils sticky, and so I have that on my stencil, and that makes it and it's just tacky, you can hear it. Okay, just like a super sticky note or Post-it note. Lay that down, but it's not like grabby sticky, if that makes sense. It's a really neat product. The reason I'm using it, also I want to point out that I need to make sure that my stuff is centered. With the T-square, you could measure both sides. I'm an eyeballer, but you could easily just measure, just throw that on there and be like, okay, is it the same? Okay, and that does a really good job. But all of these loose little lines, I just wanted to make sure that they all kind of stuck down. I didn't want to have tape everywhere and do that kind of thing. Also, when you store a stencil that has the sticky on it in our storage little system, which you'll see in all the videos, they don't stick together strongly. So it actually doesn't seem to impact anything. All right, so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna mix a color. I want a Patriotic color, but I don't want anything too, I don't want it to be too dark because that's gonna not show on the red. Contrast is king. So we'll mix with a little bit of a gray, and I'll just kind of brush mix. This is acrylic paint, and it is water-based acrylic paint, and we just put it in these honey jars just to make it easier for us than big containers and stuff. So just mix that together. We're using a dome brush, and the dome is cut in all of a rounded shape, like a dome. And instead of a flat stencil brush, when a flat stencil brush hits your project, it bends underneath the stencil and you can have bleeding under. And so we don't want that. So the dome brush is like amazing. If you guys that are coming and seeing this that are stencil fans, we have a big stencil fan family. Will you put a comment below that talks about how great these dome brushes are? Because that is sharing with future stencil fans. So we're gonna take just a little bit of paint on our dry brush. On our dry paper towel, I'll just rub off the excess. We call it like offloading or unloading. And then we're gonna go over here. And I like to paint with a swirl technique. And this is really different from traditional stenciling. Traditional stenciling is pounce, pounce, pounce. And I find it's just like physically, if you have a big project, I think it's like exhausting. So I don't like to do it that way. I like the swirl. It's much easier and you'll see what I mean. So we'll go here. And I'm using really light pressure. And if I was using heavy pressure, I might be able to move parts of the stencil around. So just be aware that when you're stenciling, you can control how hard you're stippling, you can control how hard you're swirling, and then the harder you do either of those things, the more paint will get on there. If I do a light touch, I'll be dry by the time I get to the end, okay? So this map is the base of what we're doing. Oh, my stencil moved. Okay, so let's talk about that. Didn't even try to make that happen. But what's happening there is this is the second or third time that this has been used, and it gets a little bit, it's picking up the dust. I don't know if you've used tape and taken it and put it on your jeans to make the tape less tacky. That's what's happened here. Now, what's neat about this product is if you put it on the back of your stencil and you want to go wash your stencil, it does not wash off. And when you wash your stencil, it actually washes the dust away. So you'll end up with freshly sticky backing on your stencil when you've done that. So actually what I should have done, because there's so much little detail, there's not big areas for this to like adhere to, if that makes sense. So to prevent that from happening again, I will go ahead and throw a piece of tape on there, because I'm really glad that happened. That was I love it when I make goof ups so that I can share what happened and why it happened. And that's what our whole channel is built on, is just to show you guys education. So I'll just add a piece of tape in either corner and then the whole stencil won't slide. But the individual tacky places, which aren't big enough to hold the stencil down, will remain stuck down. So that's really cool. Okay, so pick up some paint. These are really fun for like the backs of your travel trailer, on the door. Really cool for just travel games and stuff like that for your kids. So this is a neat stencil to have on hand. And I'm gonna just plunk my brush into water. Now I can't reuse this brush for anything else until it dries, or at least for anything else in stenciling, because the water stays in. This is a very thick brush. It stays in there and it makes it wash on your paint, and then that would cause seeping underneath your stencil. So get a different clean brush, and it's got to be dry. Flip my paper towel back over. So I use all the sides of the paper towel. Okay, so I have a star stencil, and my star stencil has pieces that are way too big, but it has a bunch of pieces that are just the right size. So kind of like Goldilocks, I'm just gonna make my stencil work. What I like about this is when you have a bunch of stencils, and this is that disc ring binder system that we use for storing them, but when you have a whole bunch of stencils, it's nicer just to be able to reuse them. So you can pick, this has got words and snowflakes. I don't know if you can see that. Words and snowflakes on there, but I can take each of these words and I could make it into its own project. I don't have to use the stencil as it sits. So you can feel free to mix and match. Recently we had somebody put the buffalo plaid through some boots, for rain boots, for a spring project. And it's just so much fun to see what people combine. And that's what we're doing here. We're gonna use 4 or 5 different kinds of things and techniques to show you how you can just change it up. Okay, so we're gonna go into a cream color. And notice that as I went across, my project was already dry. So I'm going to do the same thing with my cream color, just load it on the end of a brush. And I don't scoop when I do it, I just dig into it just a little bit. And now get the glasses. And then we're just going to we're going to avoid the really big stars. And you just layer it right over. And now, why am I stippling when I've just given the whole lecture about don't stipple? You stipple when you want detail to go through, when you want to, like this is now lifted up on another piece of stencil. So I want to make sure I get like in both sides of where that stencil is underneath. So that's why I would stipple. And when I want something heavy, sometimes these brushes lose a hair, just brush them off. They're so magic, these brushes. Feel a little bit like Woody Woodpecker here. Okay. And peek. And I think that's just enough. With this one, because we're doing a random assorted stars all over the place, I would not want to move the stencil until, like, I would not want to let go of it until I was sure I liked the effect, because laying it back down exactly would be difficult. Okay, so I'm going to say yes to that, and then come over here and move these. All right, guys, so make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell because we are going to have 2 more segments to this project, and all of them are educational and you won't want to miss a thing.